Hey, welcome everyone to Innovation Unplugged, where we dig into the bold ideas and brilliant minds shaping the future of enterprise tech. My name is Jim Brasmitsis, and today we're joined by a brilliant individual, Khalid Raza. Now, he won't talk about all of his history, but he is really, truly the godfather of SD-WAN and in many cases in networking generally. And so we're super excited to have him. Today, he is he's the founder of Graphiant. I'll let him explain all of what Graphiant has done. He's a visionary who's helped shape modern networking clearly. Khalid previously co-founded Viptela that eventually sold actually to Cisco for a healthy sum as well. He understands high performance and as a service network fabric for enterprise edge. If you're navigating the cloud transformation, distributed workforces, or edge infrastructure, my friends, this episode is for you. Let's get unplugged. Khalid, welcome. And with that, I'd love to have you introduce yourself and Graphiant.
Hi, Khalid Raza. Thank you for that great introduction. So I worked for Cisco for 17 years, and I tell this story that the first time I saw internet routing table, there were 20,000 routes in the routing table. So I've grown with internet, worked with some of the tier one service providers, left Cisco in 2011, and in 2012 started Viptela. The idea of Viptela was that the commodity internet is way cheaper than MPLS, and customer wanted to augment the bandwidth usage. Viptela got acquired in Cisco. In fact, I presented the idea of Viptela in Cisco for almost 2 to 3 years. 2009 onwards, I kept on presenting that this needs to happen. And to my good luck, nobody listened. And then after acquisition, I went back to Cisco. It started to become pretty obvious to me that there is no data centers anymore. There are centers of data, and data is disaggregating. And AI is further going to disaggregate data. So we really have to look at how we build networks. This is not a content distribution network anymore. And we have to see, and enterprises have a very interesting challenge in front of us where their data sources are distributed, and there will be a lot of public-private data exchange with the LLMs and actually with their agentic AIs. So it's an even massive data distributed problem. So how does the network become an active network has to become a very active participant in this data economy. Today, network is not. And that's what Graphiant started to solve, a disaggregated data problem with cloud. And AI, agentic AI, and IoTs are even a bigger frontier. And the network has to be a very smart participant. Today, it's not. And that's what Graphiant is trying to solve, that let's make network become both a free-flowing data connectivity with a smart intelligence and how to protect your data sovereignty and data visibility and observability.
And that is in stark comparison to traditional MPLS or SD-WAN, which, keep me honest, my friend, you're the expert in this world, I'm not, but those are very much defined network pipes with some security and other policies, but they're defined. What you're suggesting is far bigger. For those who are on the enterprise side, who have deployed and manage and operate legacy MPLS circuits or now SD-WAN, can maybe you spend a minute on what is so different about what Graphiant has solved, given the lessons you've learned and where you see the market going, to just give them some tangible, here's where we're different from SD-WAN or MPLS.
If you look at SDN, I'm not talking about SD-WAN yet. SD-WAN, SDN's fundamental concept was control plane, data plane separation, but control plane completely abstracted from the data plane. So I should be able to run my control plane anywhere I want freely, and my data plane does not need regular programming. What people converted SD-WAN, if you look at everybody's SD-WAN, at Viptela, we did 50% of that job, that we were able to separate the control plane, and our data plane was not everywhere, but we ended up building these over-the-top tunnels. But if you look at control plane, the internet runs on a control plane called BGP. What is BGP? It's a database. It's a massive distributed database. With the universal availability of the computing in the cloud, why can't I take that database out and run it in the cloud? And once I have that visibility and control in the database, I can do policy, observability, correlation. I can correlate to all the IP fix, threat intelligence, because now you have a very intelligent system sitting there with massive scale. Now, in transit, as I build this network, that is where I think MPLS guys need to wake up, and they have an opportunity of a lifetime. MPLS was a great technology for service provider for any-to-any connectivity, because that's what happened because of unified communication. We are back to that problem where it's any-to-any connectivity, but the problem with MPLS was it was carrying a customer state in transit routers. The beauty of internet was there is no transit state inside the core of the internet. So what Graphiant is essentially trying to do is to taking best of SD-WAN. We took the entire state out of customer policies from every hop. And then you're not building hop by hop tunnel, because really, when you decrypt data and you do route lookups in transit, you create vulnerability. Graphiant is essentially saying the transit should be free of all policy, encryption, route lookups, and all the policies of how you route traffic is decided in the centralized control. So we've taken best of MPLS, SD-WAN, segment routing, and build an infrastructure that actually is massively scalable. I tell people, if you're an enterprise, you will have one connection into Graphiant stateless core, one, and you can have 1 million IPsec essays without a scale problem. So wherever your workload is moving, your SA can move. But your tunnel does not move with your workload. You have a single connection. So architecturally, we need to solve that problem, because AI is going to force us to solve that problem. If we don't, this is not a content distribution network anymore. And we have to look at differently. Every enterprise has a strategy for AI, but do they realize how much their data is distributed? And how an agentic AI is literally a microservice that will connect to 10 other microservices. And I learned this lesson when I was looking into the data centers guys. Data centers guys had to do it 10 years ago, and they'd converted their spine leaf architecture into a fabric. Why? Because of microservices. Wide area is exactly at that place. And AI is going to force us in this direction. If we don't convert our network into a fabric and keep on building hop by hop over the top tunnels, we have a massive security problem, scale problem, massive scale problem. I should be able to move my workload around, and my data, wherever my data is moving, my connectivity should be able to follow it without reprovisioning. Every time I change anything in my topology today, I have to reprovision. That's a massive problem. Automation will not solve this problem. Architecture will. And we need to look at protocols. I'm a protocol guy. So everything is in there, inside those protocols. We just have to make minor tweaks, and it's out there. So I'm a BGP guy for 30 years. BGP has everything. We just have to relook and make few modifications. We will publish our work in 2 years. We're standards-based. And then take it to the industry and saying, let's create a intelligent services layer which enterprise controls over any network infrastructure. If we build a fabric, I let you as an enterprise to program my network exactly the way you program in cloud. And I don't get to touch your data, I don't get to see your data. It's transit, but you have the policy control.
Speaking of cloud, my friend, when you had started Graphiant, this was cloud native from day one. Everything you just mentioned was cloud native from day one, which means you are nested inside of all the hyperscalers natively, right? So for the enterprise, you're working within the spaces they already work with in some cases, or even on-prem as well, right?
Yes. So for enterprise, we essentially go with 3 use cases. A, cloud native. You have control over all your policies. We solve the complexity. You have the policies. We do not define your policies. You define your policy. We're able to track your data. We're able to show you how your data is moving. Data sovereignty is becoming a very critical aspect of it. So wherever data moves, you should be able to track it. The whole microservices architecture is, again, from scale perspective, if customer calls me today and said, I have 100,000 sites connected in my network infrastructure. So I have this massive routing database. The customer calls me tomorrow and said, I acquired an equal size company and I want to double my scale. I can do it in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. That's the beauty of cloud architecture. So
let's noodle on that, my friend, because I think that's a really interesting point. In that scenario where a customer is buying an equally as large organization and needs to merge everything, in the traditional SDN world, there would be thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars spent on new hardware. And as you mentioned, new routing and everything else. In your 5 minutes, you're just taking a company's existing policies defining now bigger reach, and they're off and running in the same way. It's a fine point, but it's something that's really interesting for the enterprise listeners who are listening today, because you are taking that complexity out, yes, but you're also reducing the physical footprint, which means for them, less to manage and more secure, right?
Yes, yes. Because if you look at it, we took the service layer out from every device in the network. Service layer is centralized. So if you merge, you just need to merge your control plane and exchange relevant information. Our B2B solution, if you and I merge today, and both are Graphiant, it's a very, very simple solution that you tell me, here are my policies and here are my IP addresses and here's the natting I want you to do. And you do it on your other end, and all of a sudden we have a data plane that can start working. We realize that we will be working in an environment where people would be using third-party IPsec connections. So when you connect to our business-to-business connectivity, we will give you gateways to connect, and then rest of your policy construct remains very, very simple. So the whole idea of centralized control was, SDN was, this whole architecture of getting policy out from every hop in the network. And this is what Graphiant has done, that if you merge, you should be able to, both should be able to dictate policies to each other, and securities and encryption at a control plane layer, and data plane never has to change. Every time we launch a new service, we do our upgrade of our control plane every 2 weeks. But I do not upgrade my data plane for months, because it's there for throughput, for months. So if you look at it, that's the architecture that SDN was supposed to do. We got lost in automating IPsec and giving visibility. That was never the point. Disaggregation of data and control plane is very, very critical if you want to scale for the workloads of tomorrow, which is disaggregated data.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to go off tangent for a moment, because the carriers play a role in providing SDN services or classic MPLS, and yet they have the most opportunity to gain on this, right? Because now they're moving into modern BGP in terms of what you guys have all provided, and they're providing through Graphiant arguably the capability and services for an enterprise to go provision and run on their own as well. You would think that this is utopia. If you had a forum with carriers today who are listening in, providing these services, what would you say to them? Like, how should they be thinking about this opportunity space going forward?
From a service provider's perspective, they have one of the biggest opportunities, because their POPs are closest to where the workload is. And if you're able to actually give enterprise access to those points of presence where they are able to manage their data privately, exchange data with the large language models, exchange data with their AI agents, exchange data with their business partner, that data exchange that happens in any private location is massive, with complete observability how that data exchange is happening. Enterprise wants data visibility, where my data is and how it's going, where it's moving. And if service providers, in our case, their points of presence provides that visibility, and enterprise do not want to call a service provider to make a change on policy. That was the problem with MPLS. Enterprise loved cloud because I can change anything that the infrastructure is there, and I can change it, and it's in my control. They love that. If service providers need to look at cloudification and AI construct of that infrastructure, it has to become a fabric, like the data centers did 10, 15 years ago because of microservices. So if we start to look at it, the enterprise wants to be able to run these AI-level microservices with complete security, complete privacy, complete visibility, and I should be able to program any service provider POP and bring in any business partner to exchange that data, and be able to connect any workloads any which way, or any of my agents to my partners if I want to. Because I want to give data to somebody, then I want to subscribe to an AI agent which would be able to execute on that data. And that needs to become a very clear private public connectivity, because I might be accessing a public LLM, but that execution of that data might be happening closest to what my edge compute location is or where my factory floor is. So from an enterprise perspective, enterprise really need that granular visibility and control of that entire data processing. Today, they don't have it. They lose it once it's over the SDN. I don't know where my data has been. I don't. But I need to know.
Let me take this a step further, and keep me honest here, Khalid, if I got it wrong. But there's the MPLS and SD-WAN world, but more and more of this data is being generated by devices SIM connected to the carrier's network themselves. You're able to bring Graphiant right to that SIM, right? So it's not just the big trunking transport stuff that you have done extremely well in your career, but now we're talking about, oh my God, a lot of the data that's going to feed these large language models or SLMs on the edge are going to be coming from devices. Those devices 100% of the time are going to be connected to a mobile operator's network, right? To the enterprise, if I want to have end-to-end visibility from where data is being created to where it gets transacted or processed and vice versa, you're providing that as a closed service, right? Is that a right way of thinking about it?
Exactly. The AI will be, for an enterprise, AI has to be a custom private network, and I should be able to control it over the carrier infrastructure. So I should be able to see where my data is moving, how it's transiting, and that data, the biggest difference in my mind that's coming is these distributed IoT points. This is where the data will be coming. So a kidney dialysis machine, what inspired me towards Graphiant is when after Cisco's acquisition, I was literally sitting with a very large healthcare manufacturing, they make medical IoTs. They initially decided that they're going to put these security functions in their device, so to use SDKs. 6 months in, the vendor called them and said, you need to upgrade this. And they said, this is a kidney dialysis machine. This does not get upgraded at the frequency you're asking me to. And that's when I was in a meeting, they were sitting with Cisco and said, the network has to protect because some of this is running Windows 2013. So these devices that are mission critical, that are saving lives, cannot be upgraded as the speed with which a user agent has been. And that's the bigger growth. The factory floors don't get upgraded the frequency, but I need security protection. Medical IoTs. And this whole idea that network is not an active participant in security, in my mind, is a very serious issue that we didn't look at as a networking guys. Every breach that has ever happened in this world, the egress router saw it.
Yes.
But did not do anything about it.
And that's likely because even the operators of that router had no idea what was happening in real time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, recently what happened with us is we called one of our customers and said, you're getting breached. Because a router is a very smart asset.
Right.
Sitting at the edge of the network.
Right.
And the customer said to me, no, that's not possible. We have Palo Alto Prisma. And we said, these are the 3 hosts that are getting breached, and you better check them. And the IP address was some legitimate CDN address 6 months ago that got acquired by some Chinese hackers who were actually breaching it. And we got that threat intelligence, again, because we have a centralized database of all the routing information. We also take the threat intelligence to do correlation. And all of a sudden, we said, this is a valid CDN address. So the customer calls his office in a South America location and called the IT guy and says, is this true? These 3 devices are getting breached? And the guy said, oh, I'm sorry, we forgot to put Prisma on it.
Oh my gosh.
So what has happened is it's a defense in depth. I'm not saying that Graphiant will replace SASE. Graphiant wants to become an agent, a router. Our edge router is a perfect agent for all IoTs and all SASE providers. So I want to partner with SSE providers and saying, not every device will have agent. And more IoT proliferation will not have agent. But what if the router becomes your agent? And it does correlation, and it will immediately redirect your traffic to a particular SASE. If it's clean, let it go. If it's mean, take it to SASE without ever provisioning in the core. Yeah. So we are having conversation with SASE guys and saying, we want to be your fabric. And we want to connect to let's make router one of your agents.
Yeah.
And on top of it, complete observability in the transit. If you go through a Graphiant core, I can tell you exactly the path it has taken. And some cases with the state actors going after each other, what is happening in the fiber build out. One of our customers told us very clearly that I do not want my traffic to take South China Sea.
Yep.
Classic hop by hop internet-based SD-WAN routers can't do that because the decision of routing is made independently at every hop.
Yep.
And this is why this AI and the next generation infrastructure, needs this type of customer private network. And we have all the pieces. That's what my complaint was with the networking guys when I was in Cisco. We have all the pieces. We just have to look at differently.
Yes.
And actually solve the underlying infrastructure problem. MPLS has all the functions. Segment routing has it. BGP has it. We just never looked at it the way the evolution of the networking is happening. It's a fabric. It's anywhere to anywhere connected. And it needs to be a controlled fabric rather than a single destination-based route. So that's why you need to separate the business enterprise internet and AI business internet from content internet.
Yeah.
I'm okay if you're going to Facebook, but I'm not okay if you're going to an LLM, which requires my private data, which could be my proprietary data, and my IP can get leaked if somebody hijacks that data.
Yeah. That's crazy. My friend, you guys have accomplished so much in such little time. I think we've covered a ton of ground. I ask this of every interview that we bring in, every guest. What's next for Graphiant? So you've solved the tougher big problems. What's next? What are you looking to continue doing?
Scale.
There you go.
And evolve security into this whole agentic AI model. So how to get deeper and deeper with the AI agents, and we're in fact right now building our own agents. We have a conversational agent. We just recently did a demo for one of our customers in Middle East. They were able to speak to our network and said, as an executive, you can ask for what reports do you want to see. And he was amazed that he was able to speak in the network with the network in Arabic. So we're integrating. Yeah. So we have started to integrate all of this, the language model. So you should start communicating. As an executive, you should be able to know what is happening in my network. Did I see any unusual activity? So for example, again, my whole idea is the edge, the beauty of internet, which I get very disturbed about when people bloat internet in transit. The beauty of internet was all the state and security was at the edge.
Right.
And that's what created the orders of magnitude of scale.
Yep.
If you keep on bloating state and transit and unnecessarily touching data, I think you need to touch data for security reasons, but we are unnecessarily touching data in transit, decrypting it, route lookups. Let's solve some of these fundamental problems for enterprise massive scale VPN fabric. So the way I look at it, enterprise should have a choice where I want my data to be looked up, not force that this is the tunnel I build and you have to do hop by hop. So from my perspective, I am a purist on the internet side. Let's take a lot of these functions at the edge, and then transit should be programmable based on your service needs.
Yep.
If I want a certain service, I'll connect. If I don't want a service in that transit point, I will not connect. Right. I want to be looking at these agentic AI data wherever I want to actually. So from Graphiant's perspective, how do we start integrating all these AI functions, the agentic AIs into our architecture? On top of it, the network should be able to communicate with you. Totally. And you should be able to talk to your network and decide how you want to build your network as an executive. That's the next thing for Graphiant. What we're working on is really somebody who comes on and says, here are the 5 things I want to do to the network, and communicate to the network, and network goes and automatically programs it, and then gives you regular reports that, like Tony Stark talking to Jarvis. Every morning, the executive should talk and says, tell me what are the big things that are happening in my network. So we've started to work in that direction. We recently did a demo for one of our customers. We'll do more and more demos for our customers. Says, you should be able to communicate with your network.
Khalid, you're in an island of your own, my friend, in terms of what you've accomplished with Graphiant. We've been huge fans since we've had the opportunity to work with you and your team, and we'll continue to push your mission through whatever channels we can, because of the extreme value that you have all created with Graphiant. And I can't say enough about how right you are about the use of AI generally, and where all that data is going to be, and how that should not be a blocker for enterprises to be able to run their LLMs wherever they need to run to securely and with visibility. Because you're right, that data is going to be around them everywhere, and taking the old principles of SDN and, heaven forbid, MPLS, and trying to apply that in a world that's constantly moving in terms of data is a true nightmare.
Yeah, we cannot provision core over and over again based on custom. I mean, when I was looking at this whole cloud architecture, I spent a lot of time, because I got a lot of guys out of cloud into my team and said, network and cloud should blend.
Yeah.
right? Serverless compute is very similar to based on MPLS principles.
Right.
And we said, we have the pieces. We're just not looking at the way we should look at. And if I am a traditional vendor, it's not in my interest. Once the state of these massive databases and policies goes out of my router,
Yep.
the router price from $3 million drops to a $30,000 switch because my data plane is a switch.
Yep.
The policy is in the centralized control. So the whole cost efficiency, power needs to significantly reduce from that perspective as well. So real estate, power, everything that I can see and protect is going to be very, very critical as I build this next generation architecture. Power, the workload will chase power.
Yeah.
And I should be able to find the lowest cost point and wherever the compute is available. And latency, if I keep on backhauling data through an architecture of backhauling the way we do and do network address translation point and connect, latency causes money. You lose money when you add latency to the network. So all of those things, our pieces are there. And we and networking guys have solved it in different elements. We just needed to combine it and put it together and make it very seamless and simple from an enterprise to be able to consume. I can't afford this latency. I can't afford this path. I do not want to go through a country which does not abide by my encryption laws. This data cannot leave the country. If I do the classic SDN, especially in Europe, GDPR laws,
Yeah.
I might have a shorter path between two endpoints of a German city through Czech Republic. Now, all of a sudden, I broke the law.
Yeah.
So how do I actually enforce all those functions? These things were there in networking. We were just not looking at the way that needs to be solved. So Graphiant is fundamentally saying networking needs to translate into data points. And data points should be part of an enterprise strategy, how data moves and how they control it.
I couldn't agree with you more, my friend. Wow, what a phenomenally awesome session. I certainly learned a lot from speaking with you today. So Khalid, thank you so much. I think this is probably a great time for us to wrap up our conversation with you, obviously. Your vision for next generation networking is more than just a bold idea, my friend. It's a blueprint for how enterprises will still stay agile, secure, and scalable in this increasingly complex world. And we haven't even touched all of the complexity brought in by AI. If you're rethinking your network strategy, Graphiant is the company you need to be following. Be sure to subscribe to Innovation Unplugged, leave us a review, and please share this episode with like-minded folks wondering and thinking about where the world of networking is going in everything that we had just covered. And with that, please keep innovating. And Khalid, thank you again for offering your time to be with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, Jim.
All right, my friend. Thank you.